With the release of Shadow of the Erdtree approaching in a few short weeks, I am sure that you, my dear viewer, have seen multiple videos uploaded to the internet in which different content creators provide their advice on what you should be doing in order to fully prepare for the DLC. Things like what builds to use, what things to farm, and what level you should be. This is all good information, and you should definitely prepare for Shadow of the Erdtree in the best way that you see fit. That being said, in my experience, I have found that the most important things to do when preparing for an optimized gaming experience have nothing to do with the actual game. I will present you with some advice. Specifically, I will go over two very important tips that you should heed in order to have the most pristine experience possible. These two pieces of advice have nothing to do with the game mechanics and everything to do with the most important part of any video game. That's right, we are going to talk about you, the player. Let's get started. The first thing that you, my dear viewer, need to do is actually an omission. Indeed, for the best possible experience with Shadow of the Erdtree, you should not use any kind of guide. Due to the current environment in relation to content creation, it is very common for a select group of individuals to get access to video games at an earlier time in order to facilitate the creation of content. This content generally takes the form of item location, general strategies, and in some cases, optimized itemization. There is nothing wrong with this system, and in all honesty, I think that it is very healthy for the game. That being said, the fact of the matter remains that this content provides players with information that they should not have on a first playthrough. While it can be very helpful, it also removes a very important aspect from the player, the aspect of discovery. There is tremendous value in finding things out on your own. Going into a cave simply because it was on the map and you were curious about it is much more valuable than doing so because a YouTube video told you that there's a specific item that will bring you a specific amount of power. In the same way, reaching the conclusion of an NPC questline and obtaining its corresponding reward feels many times better than following a checklist of instructions that guarantee success. When doing things through your own volition and finding the results, you create a much more lasting memory of the experience. Things are more valuable when fabricated through our own means. This discovery is something that only happens once, because there is only one chance to discover something new, and that, my dear viewer, is a great feeling. When using a guide, the only thing that we are doing is robbing ourselves of this feeling. The immediate benefit of a power spike is not worth spoiling the amazing feeling of discovering something by yourself for the very first time. Now, it is important to understand that I am not saying that these kinds of guides are bad. Quite the contrary, they are extremely useful. Hell, most of this channel is constructed on the back of guides on mechanics and builds that provide a wealth of knowledge for the majority of the player base. But I would never recommend anyone to spoil themselves in such a manner. When playing a game for the first time, in this case a DLC expansion, it is important to explore. It is important to make mistakes and encounter hardships. And of course, it is important to overcome these challenges with your very own strategies. This is, after all, what the Souls are all about. The second thing that I recommend for an efficient first playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree is to take notes. I can already imagine what you're probably thinking. What the fuck is this asshole saying? Why would I take notes while playing a video game? Well, the thing is that it is very helpful. Elden Ring is a game that has a lot of convoluted quest lines that involve multiple NPCs. Some of these quest lines take place in multiple locations, and sometimes in completely different areas of the game. Not only this, but there is the opportunity of ending a quest line prematurely if the right step is not taken or if we proceed too far with the main story. I understand that this can be annoying or counterintuitive, but the fact of the matter remains that this is the way that FromSoft makes its games, and they will not be changing it anytime soon. When any of us decides to play this game, we accept this reality. For this reason, taking notes is a very simple way to make sure that we record the names of NPCs, their locations, as well as their most important bits of dialogue. It doesn't have to be much, just enough to remember what we need to do next for each quest line. Personally, I like to use physical pen and paper to have a small record that I can use alongside the game's map to situate myself. I also like to maintain an order of business, where I keep a list of things that I want to do next and the order in which I want to do them. That being said, it would also be useful to just have a notepad open in your computer while you play the game and just jot down whatever is useful to you. Honestly, it is not that bad and it is very helpful. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were a lot of games that would write full-blown journals every time that we started a quest or did something relevant. If you played Planescape Torment in any capacity, I am sure that you remember how a lot of things that we did will be met with the timeless line of
updated my journal.
Furthermore, as players, we have grown used to games holding our hands and pointing us in their next direction. When presented with a situation that does not do this, we need to resolve it for ourselves. I understand that this piece of advice is not the most orthodox, and there will be a lot of players that will scoff at the notion. After all, we play games to have fun, not to do homework, right? Still, I urge you to give this a try. Find out your preferred method, establish your system, and organize yourself so that you are able to maximize the information that the game presents to you through the NPCs. As an additional note, something similar can be done with item descriptions, but this is honestly not as important as we have the ability to double check them whenever we wish. Overall, my dear viewer, you will be surprised at the sheer amount of information that the game presents to the player. Most of it is very useful, and it can go a long way in making the difficulty more manageable. Give it a shot. You might be surprised. As I mentioned before, there is a good chance that you might find this advice a bit unorthodox. Frankly, you're probably right. That being said, these are things that truly helped me a lot and made my experiences better. It is very easy to introduce these pieces of advice into your gaming experience, and honestly, they do not require a lot of effort. Do this, and you will be able to keep your first Shadow of the Erdtree experience clean and memorable. Remember, we only get one first time. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that I do get to see you on the next one.